video, I'm going to tell you guys about my experience with stripping this truck down to bare metal. So one of the main reasons that I wanted to do my truck bare metal is because even though it looks good from a distance, kind of, there's tons of rust. This is a Pennsylvania truck. I had rust everywhere. When I got it, I kind of knew there were some questionable areas, and I'll show you guys some pictures, especially the doors. That was a big one, and the back of this bedside over here. And I'll show you close-ups, and you'll understand what I'm talking about. But seriously, I had like probably an inch of Bondo over certain areas. A quarter inch, half an inch wasn't even rare at all, everywhere. And on the doors was my favorite because they bondoed the bottom of the doors over all the drain holes. So when it rained hard, for one, these windows don't push water away very much, so they just sit in the bottom of your doors. Well, whenever you bondo all those drain holes, all that water just sits in there and rusts everything out. I'm gonna give you guys some tips on if you guys want to do your truck or your car in bare metal. Now I live in California where it's nice and dry and it doesn't rain as much up here for sure. I am up in the mountains, so it's not beautiful all the time. But my truck was rusted out in a ton of areas. I knew I needed to fix a lot of things. But my main reason that I wanted to do it in bare metal is, for one, I kind of like how it looks. Two, I knew I was going to have to strip it down anyway later. So eventually I can paint this, apparently. But I didn't want to put the money into doing a ton of bodywork and stuff. I drive this truck all the time. I beat it up. You know, I don't want to worry about scratching the paint. I mean, that's a ton of money, and I don't want to be stressed on my truck. I want to drive it and have fun with it. I have, since last February, I have about 20,000 miles on it, so I do drive this truck a lot. So I don't want to be worrying about a $10,000 paint job on my truck when it's, you know, it's not worth a ton of money anyway, especially with all the metal work that needs to be done to it. So if you guys are thinking about stripping your truck to bare metal, it's not free, I'll tell you that. There's tip number one, it is not free. It is tons of time. I had about 14 hours at least into just stripping the tailgate. And then I got a better process. At first I was using a wire wheel on a 4.5-inch angle grinder. That works for sure. You gotta be careful, don't just sit in one spot, don't heat up everything. You know, if you're worried about your metal not warping and stuff like that. If you're not worried and your truck looks like crap like mine does, then it's no big deal. That took a long time, and later on I learned about the speedy stripper or something like that. It almost looks like a dried up sponge. You still use it on the angle grinder. It's so much faster, so much faster. It does get the panel super hot. Anything that grinds faster is obviously going to get it hot. So speed stripper was definitely something you guys could use. If you don't know about it, check into it. It saved unreal amount of time. I would do whole panels in a day instead of 2-3 days just on my tailgate. So that really helped out. I still wire wheel whenever I get down to the bottom, and then I would hit it with, I think, 80 grit, 1 something, and then I think I finished it off with maybe 320 at the end. And then I actually used a scuff pad afterward to get it looking kind of uniform. You are going to have swirls in it. I know there's another guy that has a bare metal truck. He said he did something to not get the swirls in it. I don't know what he did, but there's still swirls in it. And I'll show you guys some rust in a little bit. But the clear coat might be a good idea. The clear almost, it turns yellow too. So anything you guys have ever seen raw that's kind of yellow, that's probably why. The clear kind of turns a little yellow. Doesn't look horrible, and you can wash it, so that's a positive. Stressing, not driving in the rain is kind of hard, especially when you cross-country road trips and stuff like that. But what I used is I used Gibbs oil, which is different than WD-40. I know I've heard some people use WD-40, but the Gibbs oil, everything I've read says that you can paint your truck later. Apparently the WD-40 kind of soaks into the metal, and then your primer and paint will never stick again. I don't think I'm ever going to paint this truck. I use Gibbs oil because I kind of thought maybe I would paint it later, but how disgusting the metal is, I don't think I'm ever gonna paint it. I think I'm just gonna, when it rusts out, it rusts out. And I got big dreams on other stuff, and I'll show you guys that later. But I'll probably be replacing panel by panel later on. And I'll get into that in a different video. Oh, another thing with the Gibbs oil. So the Gibbs oil, after you have to clean it really well, and then you use a rag and just wipe the oil over it and just leave it on there. It's just like oil. So whenever you touch it, it's oily. When it rains, it's oily. It runs down on your windshield. And it doesn't last forever. It does last okay, and the more coats you do, and what I mean by more coats is like the first time you do it, it's gonna rust. And then maybe like by the fourth, it kind of holds off the rain a little bit better. My big problem is I did mine and then I drove over to Kansas in a super, super monsoon storm with no windshield wipers, of course, because that's how I like to drive my truck. And it just washed all my oil off and then just rusted my entire truck. And so I'm at an event just bummed out the whole time, so my truck's rusted out. And then you just go back with sandpaper and sand it again. It's no big deal. So Gibbs oil is good, but there's a lot of maintenance on it, so be ready for that. All right, my next tip is be ready to uncover some danger. All right, so what I'm talking about, I'm going to try to show you guys my bedside. This is someone's weld on the bedside. If you watch any of my other videos, I love showing this bedside fix-off because it amuses me. This was covered in so much Bondo. I knew something was there because there was gigantic deep cracks, but all that Bondo just holds the water up and just rusts out everything. So there's tons of rust on this bedside. Luckily, I replaced my other bedside because it was so bad, but now it actually stands out because it looks so nice compared to everything else. But you can see these patches. They didn't even weld everything solid. And, you know, be ready. You can see this antenna patch, and I'll have a picture of that later. The hood. All this was all just covered in Bondo. All my hood letter holes were covered in Bondo. There must have been a fire on my hood. That was filled with Bondo. Pretty much everywhere. I'll talk about the doors more later, but you can tell there's some like brazed filling in there. There's a lot of brazed holes filled in my driver's door. This is one of my weld patches. I kind of ran out of Gibbs oil, so it's starting to rust, and so you can see all my patches are coming in. And this door sucked, but I had to weld a bunch. Here's another cab corner if you want to see. There are 3 tack welds holding that on, and I don't even think one of them's not even touching the other panel, so that's exciting. And then this is the inside of the door where I actually painted this all fawn. All the interior is going to be fawn in my truck. But there's the clean bedside, if you're wondering. But you can see the front of my bed. That was all just filled in Bondo. All those holes. I haven't done the inside of the bed yet. Just cause time. And then there's the tailgate. And there's some more holes down in the tailgate. Be ready to uncover bad stuff. If that scares you, I don't know what to tell you. These trucks, when people sell them to you, unless you're really lucky, are probably garbage. So this is the underside of my cab, of the drip rail in here. I haven't even stripped all that, but you can see all that is rusted out. There was a hole. Hopefully you can see up there. There was a hole up here that you almost could have stuck like multiple fingers through. And so I patched that just so it wasn't windy whenever I'm driving down the highway. Another thing, I'll show you guys a video. I got some spare doors for multiple reasons, but I knew that the driver's door was bad. And so I got a deal on these doors for really cheap and some other parts. Mainly because I wanted these stainless wing windows. My wing windows were black and they'd been painted over, even though it's supposed to be chrome because the custom trim comes with or stainless. So I got these spare doors and I was hoping I could run both of the doors. The driver's door had a giant crease in it. Of course, I spent all the time to strip that thing all the way down, and then I tried to pull out the crease after I already fixed a ton of stuff. I couldn't get the crease out, and then I don't know why I was thinking that it would pop out pretty easy. There's a support right where the crease is, so you really can't get a hammer and dolly in it, and the crease was so deep that it messed with the front where your fender and your, I don't know what you guys can see, but where the fender and your door meet up, so I didn't have a good line to work off of, so I had to scrap that door, and then use the door that was on my truck already, so that was a huge process, but I got it working. I'm happy because this passenger door, in '67 it was an option even to have a passenger mirror. So I don't have a passenger mirror on my truck, and those holes are already filled in, which obviously I'm not afraid of welding because I had to do it a ton on this. But I got a bunch of good glass, so that was another thing I got to switch out whenever I did the doors. I really don't even care about that bedside being so gross. And in a lot of ways, I wish I saved myself $500 on the other bedside. But whenever I bought it, when I did the wood bed floor, I was still on the impression that I was going to paint it. I was going to do this truck blue and white because those are my favorite, the baby blue. The brazing, if you're asking, was not me. These patches, besides on the doors, was not me. Trust me, I do not do work like that. It kind of drives me crazy whenever I see the patches everywhere, but it also amuses me that that's just what people pass off as good work. So some of my last tips, obviously, try not to take this thing out in the rain as much as you can. It's a lot of work, but when it's done, it's almost like a patina truck where you're kind of like not worried about scratches, not worried about driving it, not worried about rocks on the road. If you guys actually drive your truck on the highway, get ready. There's obstacles flying your way all the time. So it's something that you don't have to stress. I can work on it a lot easier and not be super stressed out. I mean, we worked on $100,000 cars at the hot rod shop that I worked at for a little bit. And those things, after they're painted, you're so stressed, just towels and everything hanging over the fenders just so you can adjust wiring, you know. So I like not having to stress that. It's been about 5 months, I think, since I put any on it. So it doesn't go super quick, but if you do let rust get in there, it will keep rusting. But it is what it is. I'd much rather buy a supercharger or a turbo for this thing, or independent rear suspension, or something way more fun than paint, body work, and all that. So try not to stress any of that. I hope you guys liked it. If you guys are thinking about doing your car, truck, and bare metal, just be ready. There's a lot of maintenance in it. There's a lot of maintenance in painting your car too. So boss was awesome, and he let me work there late at night. So there's nights that I'd be leaving when the guys are showing up in the morning. So I was super stressed on a timeline to get this done because California doesn't really like you doing anything dangerous to the environment. So stripping this thing out in California, I didn't want to have to worry about that. So it was really hard to do it because this is my daily driver. So I would drive it to work, take stuff off, and then grind it all down, have to get it ready, and then put parts back on before I left to drive home at night. So be ready. I think it's a fun thing to do. If it's a super nice hot rod, something that's valuable, I would not suggest it. I don't know if it's worth it. In the end, I think you're gonna be fighting rust the whole time if you're lazy. None of this hobby is worth it for you. So I wouldn't do it either. But I think it's something fun to do. Please subscribe or like the videos. I'm really trying to hit that 1,000 subscribers. I'm a long ways away. So let me know what you guys think. Later. said, your truck looks like it's on the Mad Max movie. And I was like, yeah, it does. It's fine. I don't really care. It's not as rusty as Mad Max, but I thought that was kind of funny. The question you guys are going to get is, when are you going to paint it? So be ready for that.